I want to pet it. This statement caught PB047 off guard. Tully had never been the most forward-thinking or logical person, but she certainly wasn't stupid. What she had just said, however, was profoundly, outrageously, objectively stupid. Friend Tully. PB047 knew that she hated being called that, but the circumstances demanded that a reality check may be necessary. That is an exclusion zone apex hunter-killer. Physical interaction would be ill-advised. Tully just scoffed. Sheesh, peeps. Where's your sense of adventure? PB047 cringed at the name, but they had called Tully something she didn't care for, so she had called them something they didn't care for. Fair was fair. This adventure you wish to partake in is less gallivanting exploits and more hyperlane straight to self-termination. PB047 chided. Tully, however, remained unfazed. Yeah, but just look at it. It's so adorable. PB047's relays clicked nervously. Friend Tully, I'm gonna go pet it. Their companion quickly interrupted. And with that, she was off, not letting her companion offer a rebuttal. PB047 watched as she hooked a hard right around the clearing, keeping herself almost hidden in the underbrush. Tully stepped lightly, making sure she went unnoticed, right up until she had reached the point that was closest to the hunter-killer that she could manage. It would be open ground from here on out, and PB047 was worried for their friend. She had two options. One was to try and sneak up on the thing, which would likely result in grievous bodily harm, trying to get the drop on an apex killing machine, and two was to make some form of ruckus, to alert it to her presence, and would likely result in grievous bodily harm, offering the chance to pounce on its prey from a distance. Tully went with the slightly less moronic idea of apprising the thing of her presence by stepping loudly on a stick as she entered the clearing, probably deciding that should the worst outcome occur, the space between them would offer the facade of a slight cushion of safety. The hunter-killer looked up, its predator eyes searching for the source of the disturbance, and landed squarely on Tully. It stared at her for a moment before it gave a brief bow of its head. It wanted to let her know that it knew that she was there. PB047 screamed internally as Tully took this as an invitation to get closer. She took slow, measured steps toward the hunter-killer. Oh, who's a handsome hunter? She said softly. The hunter-killer's attention was once more captured, and its gaze cast back on Tully. Huh? You are! You're a handsome hunter! She was practically swooning over this murder machine. The hunter-killer blinked slowly at her. Okay, thank you. Today was chock full of surprises for PB047. They hadn't done much research on the specimen that lay in front of them, but they had heard the stories. And considering the information that had been passed along, they were surprised that it could formulate thoughts beyond maim, kill, burn, let alone deconstruct full sentences. Tully squealed, You want a treat? The apex hunter just continued to stare at her for a moment, before making a strange motion with its arm and glancing down at its wrist. Yeah, I could eat. Tully drew a sweet bar ration from her satchel. Her mid-wing claws certainly weren't the most dexterous of things, and if the hunter-killer saw her fumble, it may be inclined to attack, deeming her to be easy prey. This was a pivotal moment in the interaction, and if PB047 had breath, they certainly would be holding it. PB047 fully expected to see the thing pounce, to hear the snapping of bone and tearing of flesh. But none of that happened. The hunter-killer simply stood there, doing not much of anything. The only sound emanating from the clearing was the crinkling noise of a snack bar being opened rather poorly. After what felt like an eternity, she managed to get the wrapper opened and slid down the bar. Tully slowly held up the sweet bar to the thing. Its arm reached for the treat, and PB047 was sure that this time would be it. It was now well within grasping range of their friend. There was no way this wouldn't end poorly. "Gentle? Gentle?" Tully prompted, and surprisingly, the hunter-killer seemed to respond to this. It slowed his own arm, in what appeared to be an attempt to put her at ease, and delicately took the offered refreshment. PB-047 began to relax a little now. Maybe the hunter-killer was already satiated or worn out from a previous hunt. But at any rate, it elected not to attack their friend, and furthermore, Tully had expanded her arsenal of stupid ideas for the day. Surely. But Tully had decided to show up with all chambers loaded. PB-047 nearly blew a circuit when she reached out her wing and began to gently tap the hunter-killer on the top of its head. "Head pats are for friend-shaped friends," Tully cooed melodically. PB-047 began preparing their eulogy. The hunter-killer let out a strange snort, followed by a low growling bark, which caused Tully to jump back, and PB-047, despite the distance, to shudder with fear. "Sorry, didn't mean to startle you. That's just too good. We do the same thing, though I can't say I've ever been on the end of it," the hunter-killer said through strange wheezing breaths. It then took a rather large bite of the snack. "Hey, this is pretty good. Thanks." It then offered out his other arm. "John, by the way." Tully stared at the offered appendage, and PB-047 could tell that something was brewing in whatever remained of her brain. "Please no," they muttered to themselves. It seemed that their quiet plea fell on deaf ears, as Tully reached out and clasped onto its wrist with both of her wings, and began tugging in the direction of poor PB-047. "Come on," Tully asserted cheerfully. That was it. If it didn't kill Tully, PB-047 would. She had caused far too much distress to his systems today, just by being dumb. Even if it wasn't a bloodthirsty monster, even if its only directive wasn't to kill, she had just assaulted it. The thing would be downright negligent if it didn't defend itself. It should tear her to pieces for her transgression, and PB-047 would attest to that in court. But much like every other interaction between the two, this one also did not have the expected outcome. The hunter-killer just sighed and said, "Alright, I guess we're doing this now," and trotted along quite dutifully behind her. Tully marched back to her companion, with the walking apocalypse firmly in tow. "See?" She was beaming with pride. "See how friendly it is? Oh, Peebs, can we keep it?"